Hey guys, happy new year, new age, and new entire damn era. It's about damn time. We kick off this new year with Gen Z taking over, the first Western country in a long line of spectacular Gen Z revolutions sweeping the world right now. Over 100,000 people have filled the streets of the Bulgarian capital in mass youth-led demonstrations against the rotten mafia rule regimen. Whilst the protests were initially triggered by the 2026 draft budget, which the government quickly withdrew on December 2nd, the protests did not stop. Instead, they gained momentum and forced the government to resign just 9 days later. Now, here's the interesting thing. The corrupt government budget proposal that triggered these protests were pretty much textbook classic boomer selfishness in a nutshell. The demonstrations, which began in November, were sparked by a 2026 budget that included higher social contributions and generous bonuses for public officials and security forces. Critics said the plan would shift financial burdens onto the private sector to strengthen government control over public institutions. Now, color me shocked, but this just goes to show how universal boomer narcissism is. Always telling you to work hard, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, to not expect anything for free. Until, of course, it comes to their own free social security. I've noticed this strange and disturbing trend in my own comment section recently. Gen Z haters always get salty beyond belief when you point out the objective facts and numbers behind how bullshit their narrative is. We work more than anyone in history. We were given worse economic conditions than literal hunter-gatherer cavemen and urban Roman slaves. These are all objectively provable with facts, numbers, and evidence. And it's funny watching them all seethe with rage when reality doesn't match their worldview. But there's one thing that triggers them even more than this that I've noticed. Whenever we talk about either escaping the system or tearing it down and building a new, better one, they somehow manage to get even more upset. Now, this seemed a bit weird to me at first because they're always complaining that you're being a burden to taxpayers or to your parents if you refuse to work for their dogshit wages. So you'd think that if we just move abroad and live minimalistically, they should technically be cool with that, as we're not living off anyone else anymore at that point. But to my surprise, they get even more upset when we start talking about actual solutions. And then it all made sense when I saw these two comments.
I support Gen Z breaking the system. It caters to the rich and doesn't give enough regular people the chance to make good money or retire comfortably. If half of that generation gets out of hamster wheel, Social Security goes out, and the old folks will finally realize how they messed up. It won't even take half. Literally, another 5 to 10% opting out on top of the already high percentage would force reform or system collapse. 15 to 20% would make reforms necessary immediately.
And this is the real reason they're constantly shoving this work hard and pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality down your throat. It has nothing to do with you being independent or self-sufficient as a person. We all know that jobs these days don't even pay you enough for that anyways. It has everything to do with the fact that you're working your tail off in order to pay for their social security. And they know it. They call you a burden to society for not wanting to work when they themselves would rather sit home and collect social security all day. They themselves are literally the biggest burden ever. Typical classic projection. Now, the ultimate, most hilarious irony in the Bulgarian Gen Z protests was that critics have acknowledged that social media and memes, yes, memes, were a big part of its success. Social media has played a major role in the movement's growth. Balkan Free Media Initiative reported that nearly 500,000 Bulgarians engaged with protest-related content on TikTok after December 1st, 70 times more than during previous demonstrations. Memes are a fast way to share an idea, said online creator Andrea Banda. And for the first time, so many influencers have joined the protest conversation. They call Gen Z a bunch of sensitive snowflakes who couldn't get off social media and were addicted to mindless brain rot memes. And now Gen Z has used the very tools they were mocked for to start revolutions, overthrow corrupt governments, and burn down the system that has betrayed them for so long. I believe Bulgaria is a watershed moment for us because this marks the first time it's happened in a Western country. These Gen Z protests have been happening all over the world for a while now, from Nepal to Peru to Morocco, but there was always a snarky little Gen Z in the West would never do this, they're way too soft and entitled in every comment section. Now this Bulgaria moment has officially put all this to rest once and for all. The Gen Z protests in Bulgaria were a massive success. Thousands stormed the streets and the prime minister was forced to resign. I actually got a decent amount of viewers from Bulgaria right here on this channel. And I just got to say one thing to you all. Very well done, guys. You might have just paved the way for the rest of us. Hey guys, you may have noticed we're getting very close to 50,000 subscribers now. This has always been a huge milestone in our eyes, so if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider subscribing and helping us get closer to this big magic number. Thanks a bunch, you guys are the best. Reality is a term that's been endlessly used and abused in this constant non-stop gaslighting of Gen Z. The economic conditions for Gen Z are just straight up bullshit from day one. Work hard 12 hours a day just to not even be able to afford rent, go to school to acquire a skill, they say, only to be saddled with $50,000 of student loan debt and unable to get a job in the end anyways. The rules of this game are just totally unplayable. But we're told to just suck it up and accept it because, well, that's just reality. That's just how it's always been. That's just life and how it always will be. You probably can't even count how many times you've personally been gaslit with these lines, and I'm here to tell you that all of it is false. Literally all of it. Things were not always this bad, not by a long shot. They do not have to be this way. It may be reality now, but that doesn't mean we have to accept it, and we can certainly change it for the better. And I believe that's what's on track to unfold over the course of the second half of this decade. In this current reality, we're given an impossible paradigm between two ridiculous choices. Work a soulless, unfulfilling, dead-end job for slavery, starvation wages, or go to college and spend your 20s drowning in boring lectures and mountains of student loan debt. We're given the illusion of choice as a way to gaslight us and previous generations without the internet and social media to show us that a different life is indeed possible. We're mostly chained and shackled into accepting this miserable reality. But Gen Z refused to ever believe this, even claiming they'd rather die than accept it. And as a result, they've discovered three very viable paths to get out of this matrix for good. These three paths are all pretty solid, and I'm quite confident that at least one of them could work out for you on an individual level as well as on a societal-wide level. Path number 1, revolution. The successful Gen Z protests in Bulgaria have shown that meaningful, permanent change is, in fact, very possible when enough people see the truth and unite. And they don't necessarily have to involve bloodshed and violence either. History has shown us that the elite ruling class are not as invincible as they seem. If they let things get bad enough, the masses do revolt and change inevitably happens. This happened in ancient Rome, in the French Revolution, and countless many other examples. The only reason it's taken this long to happen in the modern day and age is because, in my opinion, too many of us were gaslit for way too long into believing it was our own fault. And this is why we're constantly being fed this laughable illusion of choice and being told it's just reality. Go to college or work. Vote for a Democrat or a Republican. Get screwed over by the government or by a corporation. It's the biggest psyop ever to keep us miserable, frustrated, but more importantly, constantly scapegoating each other instead of focusing on the real problem. These recent waves of Gen Z protests, however, have given me a surge of hope like never before. Everywhere from Nepal to Morocco to now Bulgaria, we're seeing the exact same thing. People of all different ethnicities, nationalities, and cultures, young men and women both, all coming together to shatter this current reality and end this gaslighting to begin to rewrite the future for good. Path 2, escape. We've talked about this in a lot of previous videos, so I'm not going to get into it too much here. But a very viable emerging path for Gen Z is to simply check out of society, find some source of online income, and move abroad where living expenses are substantially cheaper. I personally did this many years ago, and it worked out great for me. At the time when I did it, people were delusional enough to think I was the crazy one and that America was still so great and mighty. But once again, this illusion has been totally shattered and eviscerated by Gen Z, with a record high percentage actively wanting to leave America now. What really inspired me recently was seeing the beginning of a new trend called Gen Z retirement homes. As much as most of our generation got totally screwed, there's going to be a few of us that manage to get lucky and break free, whether that's by investments, inheritance, or social media. And it really gave me hope to see that some of us are choosing to reinvest our good fortunes into compassion rather than for profit. These Gen Z retirement homes have made it so that moving abroad and checking out of this rigged rat race isn't purely an individual solution anymore. It's opened the door for many more fellow Gen Z escapees, as the very first Gen Z retirement home has literally already been fully booked in its first month ever. Moving abroad is a more than viable solution. I'm living proof of that myself. And with the inception of Gen Z retirement homes, it might just start becoming possible to more and more people. But as much as it's worked out for me personally, I'm also aware of the fact that it's not a macro societal wide solution that can work for millions of Gen Z. For that, we turn to path number 3, reform. Democrats and Republicans have both failed us. We can all agree on that. And this is because no matter the party affiliation, no matter what they propose on paper, they're ultimately, at the end of the day, a bunch of old and out-of-touch boomers who are just not going to be aware of the problems facing young people today. This is a trend we've seen in every country where the Gen Z protests have succeeded. The days of elderly people being all old and wise are long gone. Life experience is totally irrelevant in an era where things change so damn fast every day. It may have been relevant in the Middle Ages when you and the next 10 generations after you were all probably going to be farmers for life, but it's definitely not relevant in the modern day and age when Gen Z needs 2 to 3 degrees, 2 to 3 side hustles, and 2 to 3 second jobs and a million different skills before they've even turned 30 just to barely survive. It's clear that we straight up just need more young people in office at this point, and in power to pass some serious reforms to the system. People who understand how difficult the job market really is, how big of a threat AI really is, and where the world is really headed in 2026. Now, the best thing about all this is that Gen Z and millennials have definitely overtaken boomers in terms of voting power now. Together, we comprise by far the overwhelming majority of the electorate. And thus, if we wanted to vote for more young leaders who actually understand modern issues, all we'd have to do is show up to vote. Whatever you think of his policies, one undeniably good thing Zohran Mamdani's recent win in New York has done is it's inspired a huge wave of young people running for office and in many cases winning. Boomers can no longer keep using this life experience nonsense to gaslight us when we've all seen and experienced firsthand for years now that their only experience is experience in failure. And not in the sense of learning from your mistakes and getting better, in the sense of repeatedly making mistakes that screw over the next generation, never taking any responsibility or accountability for the consequences of your own actions, and nonstop gaslighting the youth into believing it's their fault like a typical self-absorbed narcissist. What really gives me hope is that it appears as if the masses are finally waking up to this now, and we're seeing this all over the comment section. This is amazing to see. These young people can take an active civic role in their community. Communities thrive when young people bring fresh perspectives. I hope the people of the community provide the support these young folks will need as they figure out how to become leaders in their community. We need young people in office, not old people who can't even type a sentence on keyboard. More young leaders, please. So these are the 3 paths to escaping this rigged system for good. And I truly believe this year is going to be absolutely transformational for us. And we're about to enter a whole new era going into 2026. Let me know in the comments which paths you're considering, which path you're most excited about, and I can't wait to get started on this journey with you all. Now, as we mentioned earlier, life experience doesn't really mean jack anymore, and the days of being old and wise are over. In fact, it's actually Gen Z, the youth, who share a lot more in common with some of the wisest minds and philosophers in all of history. We explore this more in this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.